Program 2. Am I creative? Imagine, for a moment, that a complete stranger comes up to you in the street and asks, "Are you creative?" What would you say? The answer depends on what you think creativity is. A lot of people think that creativity is some rare gift that lets people produce amazing works of art or dream up incredible inventions. And they're right. Microcomputers and the Mona Lisa are definitely examples of creativity. But that's only part of the picture. Let's take a much more down-to-earth situation. Every so often, your work life and your home life will clash. For example, you may have some emergency at work, which means that you won't be able to get your children to their after-school clubs. What do? Well, we can pretty much guarantee that you don't just put a bag on your head and give up. You aren't that sort of person, because if you were, you wouldn't be interested in this program. Instead, the chances are that you invent different ways of solving the problem. Now, it's possible that none of your ideas work. That happens. But the point is that you would create potential solutions, and that is being creative. Because in its simplest sense, creativity is the ability to come up with new and useful ideas which solve problems. Surely, you're thinking, there has to be more to it than that. After all, you spend your whole life running around solving problems. Is that all there is to creativity? Well, no, but focusing on problems is a great way to help you develop your creative talent. Now, not all problems are created equal. There are lots of problems which you already know how to solve without even thinking about it, such as tying your shoelaces or perhaps driving a car. The problems themselves might be quite complex. Parking a car in a big city can be very challenging, but you do know how to do it. You don't have to invent anything new. Then there are the problems which you really don't know how to solve. Problems such as, I don't know what to get my friend for her birthday present, or how can I convince my colleagues that the new way of working will make everyone happier? These problems are unique for you. There isn't a single correct answer, so you have to invent a way of solving them. Generating the solutions requires creativity. So it's probably better to say that creativity is the ability to come up with ideas which solve novel problems. Now, if creativity is so simple and straightforward, and if you're being creative most of the time anyway, what's the point of this course? Well, the simple answer is that even though we're naturally able to think creatively, we often put limits on our thinking, and so don't do as well as we could. In other words, we get in our own way. Let's look at how that happens. How would you feel about some nice crab-flavored ice cream? Now, this isn't a made-up dish. Heston Blumenthal, who's a chef at a restaurant called the Fat Duck, offers this as one of his signature dishes. However, although people like the taste, they're put off by the name, because ice cream is meant to be sweet. The customers' minds judge the ideas so quickly that their palates never get the chance to express an opinion. Now, this ability to judge ideas is hugely important. It's the reason that we don't climb up electricity pylons just to find out what 50,000 volts really feels like. However, because judgment is so important to our survival, we've tended to overdevelop it, and this means that we've become too good at spotting what's bad with an idea instead of being able to see what might be good about it. To get round this problem, Heston simply described the dish in a different way. Instead of calling it ice cream, it became frozen soup. In essence, he fooled people's judgment into thinking it was a reasonable idea, and this allowed them to try something completely new. When it comes to solving problems, it turns out that you are much, much more effective if you can turn off your judgment for a while, so that you can explore lots of what-ifs, and then turn your judgment back on when you need to make a choice. So, we know you have the ability to be creative. You demonstrate it every day. And we also know that your mind does such a good job of trying to ensure your survival that it screens out lots of interesting ideas because they don't make sense. But it wasn't always this way. This screening ability builds up over time. In a piece of research that's been going on now for the past 50 years, Paul Torrance and his research team have been measuring the level of creativity in children as they grow up. The findings are fascinating. They show that 98% of children between the age of 3 and 5 score creative genius. When those children are measured again 5 years later, only 32% are scoring creative genius, and by the time the children were in their teens, only 10% scored creative genius. Now this might sound a bit depressing, but it's actually good news, because if we could just reverse the process, we would have an entire nation of creative geniuses, and that's exactly what we're aiming to do. But rather than work with everyone else, we want to start with the most important person, you. We need you to reconnect with your inner creative genius. It's not complex, but it does take practice. So to make it easier for you, we're going to break it down into a few simple steps, which we'll build up over the next few days. Okay, enough chat. Let's get down to work. If you want to have more good ideas, you need to do 2 things. First, delay your judgment. When you're dreaming up possibilities, try to give every idea a chance. Strangely, this means that you should also try not to get too enthusiastic about any one idea, as that tends to limit your creativity as well. Leave your judgment at the door, pick it up on the way out. We'll be covering more about this in a later program. For now, just try to notice when your judgment has kicked in and let go of it for a while. Second, capture all your ideas. Write them down in a notebook, or if you see something interesting, snap it with your camera phone. This is absolutely critical. You must capture your ideas, because otherwise they will float away. We'll be using your ideas later on in the series. So your task for today, using these 2 principles, is to come up with at least 25 new ideas. Now that might sound like a lot, but when you start paying attention to your thoughts and letting go of your judgment, you'll be amazed at just how much is going on inside. Are you still here? You don't have time to listen to this anymore. Go and get on with it. See you in the next program.